Good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Fantastic,
How are you?
Fantastic to see you over here in the UK again.
Yes.
And basically, I just thought before you fly home, but we've discussed you're not flying home. You're going to Germany after here,
I'm going to
aren't
Germany
you?
after here. Yes.
And you're popping over to see Nios and also
Modern Reef.
Modern Reef, which is at Euro Corals.
Yes,
That's
Euro
it.
Corals.
And then you're flying on to see that wonderful woman's aquarium. What's her name again?
Mara. Well, her Instagram is Mara, but her name is Maria.
It is stunning, isn't it?
I think it's probably one of the best tanks in the world. However, when I did notice the type of tank that she had, you can see that she's very tenacious as an aquarist. I started building the concept for volume 3. And in volume 2 and 1, you notice that I have somewhere between 30 to 40 tanks from around the world. Well, in volume 3, there's only going to be 5 or 6.
But 5 or 6 real special ones.
So these tanks are going to be the most special tanks on the planet. And in order to do that, I have to really dissect every single one of them.
Yeah.
And visiting her and seeing her tank, because visually on Instagram, her tank is like amazing. But everyone that's seen it has told me the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is a pure SPS aquarium, isn't it, really? But she does have lots of animals, I'm told, elsewhere in her house.
In her basement.
But she just collects that. She's just a coral
fanatic.
Crazy. Coral crazy, yeah.
Coral fanatic.
Anyway.
That's not a problem.
So, no, not at all with that. So, one of the things I thought we'd start today off with is a little bit more personal stuff. So, we and you talk fish and corals and aquariums and everything all the time. But there's some other I think that some of the UK hobbyists will be really sort of impressed with this, particularly if they're of a certain age, like my sort of age. Because you're a Bronx boy. Is that right?
I am.
New York Bronx.
Yep,
And of course,
born and raised in the Bronx.
Because when I was a kid, I was fascinated by the area that you came from, because I was so into the new revolution called hip hop.
Yes.
And I
grew up in the birthplace of hip hop.
I know, and one of the things that you only told me just last night is that you lived on a certain street which was just round the corner for one of the most famous DJs at the time. You wouldn't really call him a hip-hop artist, because I don't think the words were really being used hip-hop so much.
Right.
But it was Grandmaster Flash.
Yes. And I lived on 169th Street between Fulton and 3rd. And he lived right off of 3rd Avenue. And I lived in between the two. And everyone congregated on a park on Fulton. So this park
was that basketball and that sort.
It had basketball, it had swimming. I had a swimming pool, areas for the kids to play, to slide, swings and things like that. Sandbox, which with monkey bars.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Which you don't see monkey bars because of the danger behind.
Yeah, because of their health and safety these days, which is terrible. But interestingly, though, as much as I was sort of fascinated, and there was a lot of it, we saw glamour in this area. I mean, you obviously lived it, and you told me it was terrible.
It was nice because my mother watched us like a hawk.
Yeah.
Right, and this is how I really started in the aquarium, because she didn't want us to be outside. Outside was dangerous. You can walk outside the building and there'd be a dead guy there from an overdose.
Yeah.
Right, the gangs were traveling up and down 169th Street, beating up on each other, killing each other. But meanwhile, there were those subdued moments where you can go to the park and she's there, vigilant, watching and making sure that my brother and I were taken well care of. But this is why she brought animals to the house. She would bring birds, she would bring this, she would bring that. And then a neighbor had a fish tank with guppies, and I used to go to his house all the time. And he set up.
How old was you then, Tony?
I was around 5, 6 years old.
It's funny because I thought you was going to say it because I was about the same age. So although I had an aquarium right from by my cot when I was a kid, but when I first acknowledged an aquarium, I was about the same sort of age. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started off with a little pickle jar. And my biggest dream and my wish, I mean, I would go to sleep, and I was a traditional Roman Catholic boy. I would go to sleep, I'd knee down next to the bed, put my hands together, and I would give my prayer, and then my wish would be that I would have a fish tank.
Yeah.
And every night I would wish for a fish tank. And then on my 6th birthday, my mother brought me the tank, and
the rest is history.
Yeah,
Quite
but
honestly.
I lost it. I lost it because, you know, all my dreams and wishes came true that day.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So really, although as much as like, you know, you can tell from my excitement about where you're from, the glamorous sort of, all I can think of is the graffiti and the culture and the music and all that.
Yeah, the trains were all
the
decorated with spray paint.
My dad was devastated by the idea that people would vandalise, but I didn't see it as vandalising. I saw it as art, and I still very much to this day, I still follow a lot of graffiti artists even to this day. But I know you had a real big one in your neighbourhood called Scene. I don't know if that name's familiar or not. No. But he was one of the biggest ones.
I never paid attention to that.
Yeah, I suppose when you grow up in it, you probably wouldn't, because it's just there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a fishy, aquatic-y interview, so I'll stop going on about that. But you came over here for Freaks 2024, but this is just one of many visits, and I know you've been coming to the UK loads of times, and I remember when I was starting out in the aquatic industry, one of the first films I saw, which was on Channel 4, was Fishy People, and I think you was on that, and you was with David, a very young David Saxby, and
a very young Tony Vargas.
Yeah, and a very young, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, very young Tony Vargas. But, but I know that you've been coming to the UK for a long time. It's not, this isn't your first visit.
No, I love it here. You and I have spoken in the past about my possibility to come to England, and your thoughts were always, well, Tony, the weather here is not.
Yeah, I know.
But I love the weather here.
I know.
You know, Seattle is very similar to the weather here in England.
Right.
And I can live in Seattle.
Yeah.
Because I love the gloomy, because
you now live in Qatar, which of course the Middle East, and I know when I visited you and met some of your friends that were from other regions like Kuwait and places like, I mean, you were telling me stories of, like in Kuwait, for example, it reaches 55 degrees C.
No, it's 60.
Even hotter now.
60, no. 55 in Qatar.
Oh, right, yeah.
Has been the hottest I've ever experienced.
I mean,
I've been told 57.
Yeah.
And in Kuwait, it has hit 59,
and when I visited, something that was just blew my mind is that it's so hot that things like traffic lights and things in Kuwait, they even have air conditioning to keep the lights cool so they don't melt, and it was just and I'll never forget, because electricity, gas and oil were so cheap in that region. There are electrical points just in the street for you to plug your phone in, to charge your phone in, and you know.
We have a really beautiful section called the Corniche, and in the Corniche it's about, I would say, probably 8-kilometer loop, one way, and on that loop there's little exercise sections, you can walk the whole thing, but there's charging ports, so if your phone is running out, you can sit by the charging port, charge it, and it's for free.
It's something.
I'll give you something else. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Ready for this? The rest of the world?
Yeah.
Listen up. My wife owns a Tesla. And we can charge at the public charging stations for free.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
We charge the electrical cars.
Nothing amazes me more though than when I went for a little walk outside your shop, which is Blue Life Marine Qatar. Is that right? Yeah. And I walked out the shop.
Blue Marine Life.
Blue Marine Life. And there was a gentleman had left his phone just plugged into a plug socket in the street. there's no theft. It's so safe.
And there was nobody near the phone.
No, near the phone. That's what I'm saying. And I remember you could leave, you know, I saw it in a shopping centre or something where women just leave their bags outside while they go and get the. It's a very safe country, isn't it? I was so shocked at how clean, tidy, safe, and so although the weather gets you down,
yeah, but it's
a
really,
really well-run country.
It's really safe. It's clean. They're cleaning all the time. And as far as safety is concerned, you know, I had an incident where I didn't realize I was behind a police vehicle. But alongside the vehicle, I'm here and the police vehicle's in front of me, and I really wasn't paying attention. And he was in front of me, and this guy was pulling out of his spot and coming directly towards me in reverse. And I blew the horn, right? And I blow the horn, and he stops, right? And then I look in front of me, and I go, oh no. And he's coming out, the cop. He comes out, and he comes to me. And he goes, why'd you blow the horn at me? And I said, not at you, at him. He was coming my direction, and I thought he was going to hit me. He goes, you're American? And I said, yes. And he goes, you go. And then he went around, and he's yelling at the poor guy that was put his car in reverse.
Anyway, I had a great experience in Qatar. As I said, it was. I know that a lot of people have their own misconceptions about the Middle East, but I would always recommend it to everybody.
Well, bear in mind, right? Remember, Angie was
really worried.
Worried about visiting because of all the propaganda that she read in regards to Qatar.
I even sent you little clips, didn't I?
Right, and I had to assure her that these weren't going to be any issues, that this is countries negatively promoting other countries, so that way you feel like your country is superior to theirs, and that's not the case.
Yeah, so that's why you love the UK weather, because it's so hot there that when you come here, it's a little bit like walking around in consistent air conditioning, I'm guessing.
It's so nice. I mean, I'm sleeping in the hotel with the windows open, and it's like, so comfortable. And the rain, I hear the rain come down, and it's like, I want to go outside and run in the rain. Because last year in Qatar, I think it was 3 drops, and it was considered rain.
So, I'm moving on. So what's been your UK highlights this time, at this show? We'll talk about the show a bit more, but on this trip, what would you say has been your UK highlights? What's been really special for you this trip?
Yeah, I think there's been a few. One was meeting the panel that you brought in. Yeah. And I've never, actually, I met Pat and Trina in Inner Zoo, but it was briefly, right? So it was like, hey, hi, how you doing? What's going on? Oh, I'm Tony. Oh, I'm this. And we talked a little bit, and then, you know, you move on because there's so much to do at Inner Zoo. And then Thang was here, and then Jeremy. You know, so
well, I was really specific in trying to get a very good balance of guests for the event. And one of the reasons why I did that was so we had, you know, I don't know if you remember my opening words, but I said, you know, from YouTubing, retailing, wholesaling, distributing, lighting and writing, because obviously you're well known, certainly amongst my generation, as an author about aquatics and things like that. But I wanted to try and combine the idea that we had, you know, a great author with fans, fantastic YouTubing skills. I know you're breaking out into YouTube, as we all are at the moment, but you know, there's Fanny's just, isn't he? I mean, he's so slick with everything he does.
And, he's a perfectionist. And his wardrobe.
Absolutely, his wardrobe. Do you know his
very
business?
Meticulous.
His business, honestly, the floor in Fan's coral farm is so clean you could probably eat your dinner from it. That's how meticulous he is with everything like that.
I've seen videos, and I would have to say I'm really super impressed.
So you had
I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it a priority to try and visit him because his place
You
is
really
amazing.
should. I mean, it is such an. I mean, I've been a lot of places now. I've been very fortunate and seen a lot of places, and you took me to a few as well. But honestly, when it comes to like the icing on the cake, Fan's business is just superb. I mean, it's eerily silent. That's the first thing you'll notice for an aquatic place is that you walk into Fan's and you could hear a pin drop. It is just phenomenal. It's almost eerie.
Yeah, which is interesting because, you know, I've often said, if you don't want to hear the noise, don't own a shop.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Because you're going to have water gurgling
that's
everywhere.
because me and you come from a generation where we have metal haloids going when I used to warm up in the morning.
And the water
noisy
gurgling
AC pumps and no idea of, at the time we knew about Durso overflows, but, you know, there was always noise, and I think there always will be for the majority of us, you know. But something I learnt from Fan is, oh no, I quite like this. It's nice to have, it lets you think better and you can hear if something's failing or something like that. But I know, obviously, another highlight, I'm guessing, was you meeting up with your old pal David Saxby.
He is a pillar within the industry, and I would have to say that he is more than just an idol for me, more than just the legend for me. I come to Europe, I come to England, and he has to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Has to be. And God help me if I come to England I don't tell him.
Oh, I don't think you'd ever get away with that.
Yeah, I don't think I would get away with it. He and I have a very special relationship, and it's funny because I think it started with sarcasm towards one another.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no getting away from it. Yeah, I've seen you two together, and you constantly. I mean, it's all friendly, but you constantly argue. And I remember one night, one day or something, I was with you, Mike Paletta, and whatever, and you've just come back from a baker's because you wanted to stop and get a cheesecake that he wouldn't let you eat.
You know where that was? That was at the museum.
All right.
We got the cheesecake from the museum.
All right, okay.
And I had a piece in the museum, and I said, David, this is the most amazing cheesecake in the world.
Yeah.
And he goes, really? And I said, yes. So he went and bought a whole pie.
Yeah.
And this pie is sitting on my lap, and all I smell is cheesecake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he's like, don't you open it.
Don't you eat it in my car, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember you walking in, and we're all chatting, and you're looking at the fish and everything else, and just naturally, like any Aquarius, you know, David's been out all day, but there's a little smear of algae on the glass, and you go to reach up to his magnet and start cleaning his glass, and you're trying to talk to us as well at the same time, so you're not really concentrating, and you're not really doing like the perfect sweep, and he lost the plot, didn't he? Tony, do you not know how to use an algae magnet? He was shouting.
And you wanted to teach me how to use it.
He wanted to teach you how to use an algae magnet, and that was one of my first early memories of you and him.
And so, actually, you know what? You're the one that recorded that situation. Yes. I think you should put it in a B-roll.
Oh, I don't know if I've still got it. I'll have to look really hard to find that.
Dude, you have to put it there.
It must go back years. I mean, how many years ago was that?
Oh my God. I don't know, 10 years?
Must be 10 years ago, mate.
Easily?
I'm not sure if I could. I'll have to have a look.
No, you'll find it. Yeah. You'll find it.
Anyway,
I have confidence.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes.
Right, so obviously the main reason why you was here was to support Coral Freaks 2024, which I'm pleased to say went down a success. I mean, I had no idea if it would, but no. And at times,
what did I tell you in the video?
You told me in the video it would do, but you know me and
I told you.
I'm always worrying. Yeah, and I was very anxious about it, but it went down so well. Who would have thought it? Talks made interesting, because obviously right now we've just seen Macna's just sort of, it looks like it's going to be no more.
Well, it's gone.
Yeah, which is a real shame. For someone like me and you, that's a shame, because we're quite happy to sit there and listen to a speaker and thoroughly, you know, but let's be honest, in an Instagram world where we're scrolling fast and looking at beautiful images, we're not really, the attention span is lacking at these coral shows and these things for talks. So when I came up with this idea of a reefing audience with, I did give it quite a lot of thought, because I thought to myself, well, maybe it's because I'm not trying to be derogatory, but we'll refer to them as the kids, the cool kids that use Instagram all the time and all the rest of it. Maybe it's because the way that talks were traditionally structured were more like lectures. And I think that people's nowadays is that, you know, there are some of us in the audience that might, you know, be more technically minded, that will absorb a talk quite well. But then there's also an awful lot of new hobbyists that would feel alienated from some of these more in-depth discussions that me and you'd be happy to sit with.
Right.
But so I thought, well, how do we change that? So I thought, well, everyone loves a chat show. Everybody loves a chat show. I know in America you have, is it Jay Leno? And over here we have Jonathan Ross.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and
I like Jonathan Ross, by the way.
And I thought to myself, who's Jonathan Ross? I mean, you know, some of us have got a good personality. And I thought, well, I'm not sure that I'm the right man for the job, even though I've got the idea. So I contact Jeremy Gay, who did the best job we could have.
He did. He was spectacular. And I'd be honest with you, it was, I think people are going to copy your formula.
I hope they do.
No, I honestly think they're going to copy, because this is different.
Yes.
This is the Jay Leno, the Tonight Show, in a panel of hobbyists, as opposed to, well, I'll do a presentation of what I think people want to hear, and I do the PowerPoint presentation, and any questions, and I move on.
Yeah, but then
in
you
this
see,
case,
this one was more about involving those people, because some people there actually. So I also, again, I was very particular about who so most people that are sort of say 40 years old will know Fan, but they might not know you, I'm thinking. But then it was interesting because I met lots of young people, and I know you got a story about someone who come up to you because we sold out of books.
Yeah,
most of them didn't go to 40-plus-year-olds.
No.
They actually went to a much younger audience, which I was absolutely blown away by. And you had what was this? Tell me the story about what happened at Coral Freaks 24.
Yeah,
what was it?
Yeah. So what happened was this guy came up, and he waited in queue, because now I'm in queue with signing the books, and I don't rush anybody through a process. I never do. I'm welcoming, I'm inviting, and I want people to be able to communicate with me and not feel like they have to be rushed.
You've always been approachable, that's the thing,
Yeah, so I didn't want that. So a queue started to develop. So there was this gentleman, I would have to say probably late 20s.
Yeah.
And he's waiting in queue. He has the book, and finally he comes up and he says to me, "I never heard of you until today. However, I went and I bought the book, and you're amazing." And I said, "Why, thank you. I appreciate the kind words." And he says, "Yeah, your speaking, your enthusiasm, the way you came on stage."
Well, that's the reason why you was invited, because I knew that you know, the British and the
energy. He says to me, "Your energy is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I want to read your book. How can I get volume 1? I said, "You're going to have to search for it, because it's out of print."
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come, because I knew you would light the room up and you would feel it with a lot of positive energy. And the other real reason as well, you are very approachable. There are some old school reefers out there that you know, that were quite well known, that perhaps are less approachable or a little bit more shy, or will only be amongst their own friends. But you love it all, whether it's from an Instagrammer to YouTuber. Doesn't matter, does it? So, right. So that was so the favourite thing about Coral Freaks 2024. Tell me why do you think that shows and events are important, like we did? Whether it's a vendor show like I've done previously, or like this chat show format that I chose for this time. Why do you think that events are very important?
It brings like-minded people together. That's number one. Number two is the sharing of knowledge. And everyone in the panel had their own specific area of expertise, while at the same time very diverse.
Yes.
Every single one there was very diverse in everything, which is quite interesting, because typically you'll meet a guy who's a chemist or a girl who's a chemist, and that's really their main focus of expertise, and they can't talk to you about aquascaping, about the biological filtration system, about this and that. They can talk to you about the chemistry. Everyone on stage was diverse.
Yeah.
And what was also interesting was when the question of water change or no water change.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, no water change. And the whole panel down the road, no water change, no water change, no water change, no water change, no water.
Yeah.
I said, inside I went, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also refusions. Yeah, refusion,
No, they all
refusion.
said water change.
Yeah, they want water change.
They always wanted water changes.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was, they want, I
Yeah.
said,
Everyone said water change, and then we get to David, who incidentally won Aquarist of the Year Coral Freaks Award.
That's where I made the comment.
And that's right, which was so funny, because you made one of my funniest comments of the show, actually, because, you know, I'm saying water changes.
Water change,
Tony Fox,
yes,
water
water
changes.
change, water
Jamie
change.
Craig's water changes. Pat and Trina, water changes. And then...
Water changes.
Fan, water changes.
Yes.
And then David, in the audience, says...
Yells out, I haven't done a water change in 3 years.
Yeah, and of course, there's all these people here that think they know, and of course, he won Aquarist of the Year, so we couldn't argue with him. He was
Well,
yeah.
so then I'd come out and say, oh yeah, and that's the guy that won Aquarius of the Year.
Yeah, that's right. So, moving on, what we're going to do, we're going to do Tony Vargas' favourite reefing stuff.
Reefing stuff.
I'm going to call it reefing stuff.
Okay,
you might want to
reefing
coin that
stuff.
term when you go back home, and you can say, like, I'm going to do favourite reef when you come to interview people. So, no, I don't want no like umming and ahhing. It's got to be like straight away.
Okay.
Favourite wrasse?
Cirrolabris lanceolatus.
Oh, lovely, the pintail.
Yes, but it's the big one. But it's the
Oh no,
it's
that's
not the little.
Oh, I know you're
yeah,
talking
it's
about the
lanceolatus.
frog. That's the
Yeah.
Japanese one.
Yes,
Yeah,
deep water
thousands of pounds. All right, I'll give you another chance. Right, you won't. You're never really going to see many of them because they're so rare.
Yeah, but that's like my favorite.
It's your favourite. Okay, favourite wrasse that you would find in an average Jellyfish.
The pintail.
Yeah, the other one, the other
Yes,
version.
and
Isosceles.
Yes,
Isosceles,
isosceles.
yeah.
And the reason for that is because I had Barnett actually track down that fish. I owned that fish over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
If you look at the, what was it? Tony's Vault. That fish was the logo of Tony's Vault 20 years ago.
Do you know they used to call lanceolatus? They were very often they were
CF lanceolatus.
Yeah, they were.
That
That's
pintail.
right. They were on the pintail. They only really got its name when Kai. Described it. Okay, so favourite wrasse within people's reach, because the other one weren't, Tony. I mean, I think they're about 4,000
I know, but
pounds.
that's
right. But the other that's within people's reach.
Yeah.
Okay. Favourite coral.
Acropora.
Yeah, go on then.
No,
give me a
come on.
species. Give me a species.
Oh, my favorite is Acropora. As a matter of fact, Acropora loripes.
Oh, I do like that.
Yes.
Beautiful, smooth skin.
However,
yeah.
We were at the museum yesterday
With Jamie Craigs,
With Jamie, and I had to explain to him that what he had was not loripes.
They didn't look like it to me.
It's
either.
not. It's Lacani.
Oh, it's a Lucani. Oh, yes, I saw pictures. Angela actually filmed it spawning.
Yeah.
You saw it spawning too,
Yes,
didn't you?
yeah, I recorded the
that
whole
must
thing.
have also been a trip highlight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was, and I spent some quality time with him as well. And he's, you know, I left off. We did a little video shoot, and I left off with him saying, "You're tenacious, and I see bigger things from you in the near future."
Yeah.
And I really do.
Yeah.
He doesn't ask one question of something. He looks for multiple questions on a particular situation to dissect it properly. And
do you remember Jeremy said in the Freaks when he was talking to him at that show? He said the number one question that Jeremy gets all the time, because obviously he's the only Englishman amongst the Reef Builders team, is, do you know Jamie Craigs? I mean, everyone over there, they're obsessed with it, Jamie, aren't they?
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
He's bringing.
It's funny though, because you've got some terrific people in Florida. So you've got Kerry O'Neill, who works for the Florida Aquarium.
Yes.
I mean, I was blown away when I visited her. And,
I had her speak at the Magna that I was associated
not surprised.
with.
I'm not surprised. She is just a genius, as is Rachel and all the team. Right. Next quick fire question then.
Okay.
Favourite lighting?
GNC lighting.
Right, G&C, that's an Italian company, produces really high quality panelled style lighting, very similar to like the ATI Stratony look a little bit, more of a flat panel, nice and thin.
It's a robust lighting, and it has this giant, not giant, but a very nice heat sink on the top of it.
No fans to
No
help
fans.
Cooling. Yeah.
It's tightly sealed.
I think I saw a video you did on YouTube where you got one. You actually dumped it underwater, didn't you?
Exactly.
It's on your channel, which is while we're remembering. What's the name of your channel again?
Vargas Reef.
Vargas Reef. Okay, right. But really, what I meant by that question was favourite lighting, because I know there'll be lots of people sort of watching. So you're a very, I'm not saying you're getting on, but you're quite modern in the way you're reefing.
I am, because.
But, so you like LED, don't you? But given a choice. If I said about brands, favourite lighting over the history of Tony Vargas?
Oh, metal halide.
Yeah, I know. It keeps on coming up, doesn't it? I'm the same. I love metal halide. I love T5s as well. But, I mean, I think we both appreciate that there are, I mean, as much as we loved what it did, metal halide, it was a bit of a nuisance at times in terms of like heat transfer.
It was, but it was dangerous.
Yeah, it was very dangerous, wasn't it?
Very dangerous. A metal halide lamp falls inside the tank.
Yeah, you're done.
And you have your arm in there.
Yeah.
Unless you have a GFCI.
Or even just splashing it and stuff.
Splashing it, you could see the light bulb just explode. You know?
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So you always had splash guards on them. However, I found that I got nice color, great growth, the corals reacted. But the issue always was heat producing.
Yeah.
Always having to change the bulb.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I had
the spectrum did drop off quite dramatically at about 9 months, didn't it? 9 to 10 months.
I was changing metal halides every 6 months.
Yeah. Well, that was at a time when they were quite inexpensive. But I mean, there was a time even in my history where metal halide bulbs, as they become less popular, they started to increase enormously in cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I must admit, I mean, I'm a fan of that sort of natural, warm, sunshine look, and I know a lot, but there's something that's changed actually over the years. So if we think back to the corals that we were keeping while we had metal halide, a lot of those corals were actually only collected within sort of 5 to 10 metres, right? Nowadays, what with scuba being
deep water,
we're seeing a lot more different corals that we couldn't keep back then. For example, smooth skin acropora, for example, we are now very successful at keeping these, and I think that's probably down to the type of lighting we're using today versus what we had then. So there are plus and negatives with metal halide, but if we was, and I don't want us to sound like old fogies, like old guys, but the metal halide, they were good, weren't they? I mean, they really were. It's not just us being sort of reminiscing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, however, I look at it this way nowadays. I want a certain fish in the tank, right? So this applies to a light. So I have a light, and there's corals that don't do well under it. I won't keep those corals.
Yeah, true.
End of story.
Just like fish.
Yeah.
So if
I put a fish inside, and he's picking at a particular coral, I remove that coral, and I keep the fish.
Yeah.
Right now he's not picking on anything because it was that particular type of coral.
Given the opportunity, if, say for example, it's your house, it's your tank, today you would still say LED?
I would, because...
But say you could have anything you wanted.
Yeah, I'll do the LEDs because I can control them.
Function, yeah.
I can.
Do you remember metal halides when they used to start in the morning? They used to make the they used to wake you up, didn't they?
They were noisy. The electronics were really hot.
Yeah.
The bulb was hot.
The ballasts were dangerous, really, weren't they? As well.
They were huge.
Yeah, but I suppose we just lived dangerously then, back then.
Back then.
Right. Anyway, moving on. Quick fire question. Favourite method. Now, what I mean by that is, so me and you over the years, so we've used everything. We've used 2-part years ago. It's trendy again now, 2-part. But we used 2-part years ago. Julian Sprung, of course, good friend of yours, makes. I remember his first product range, Sea Balance. He had, didn't he?
And A and B.
A and B. So 2-part's not a new thing. But you've used dosing. We've used calcium reactors together. We've used Kaltwasser with calcium reactors and either or.
Exactly.
We've done all sorts of new methods that have come along, the Red Sea stuff. We've used all the Triton stuff and all of that. But if I said to you today, Zeovit, there's been so many systems, the Miracle Mud system in so many words, no dosing with that, but it was dosing of trace elements going on. But in all the methods that have come through, like if we look at it again, break it down, not the brands as such, are you calcium reactor, Kaltwasser, dosing, out of those three, which one would you say to
Kaltwasser.
You'd still stick with Kaltwasser?
Well, bear in mind that Kaltwasser is not just one element that provides a significant amount of change to your aquarium. Kaltwasser actually has six positive reasons to use Kaltwasser. Okay, it replenishes your evaporated water.
Yeah, if you're using it directly via that method. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's how we started with Kaltwasser. We should probably explain ourselves, because originally, when we used Kaltwasser, your ATO top-up reservoir
was the Kaltwasser.
Nowadays, I believe that people that have moved it, like Chris Meckley, your good friend at ACI Aquaculture, he specifically doses X amount of litres per day, irrespective, like I did more recently, irrespective of evaporation. But that was the original way of using Kaltwasser.
However, it wasn't just that. It enhances your protein skimmer.
Yeah, because I suppose it
precipitates phosphates, and I haven't even touched on the two most important reasons. It stabilizes your alkalinity, and it improves your pH.
Yeah.
Because if
I suppose really there should be cost in that as well, because it's actually very cheap to do, isn't it?
It's very cheap.
Yeah, but like with everything, it has negatives.
So
it has for me,
negatives.
I've stopped using it.
Well, no, it has negatives based on the way you use it. Because if you use it properly, I have tanks in Qatar that I've that I've taught the people how to use the Kaltwasser, and their pH is flatline. Because they know that at a certain point the lights are shutting down, now there's less photosynthesis, and the pH starts to drop because the CO2 levels are rising. Because the zooxanthellae aren't respirating.
It offsets, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it offsets.
So now, while that's happening, the Kaltwasser kicks in and it stabilizes the pH, preventing it from dropping any further. And then in the morning, right before the lights come on, it starts to shut down and your corals start to respire again. So you're stabilizing the pH. There are people that don't monitor that. They just do the Kaltwasser without taking into example how much Kaltwasser does my tank need and how much do I have to dose.
Yeah, you do have to be careful, because it can be absolutely devastating, can't it?
You have to know what the absorption rate of your tank is for that Kaltwasser, for the absorption of the alkalinity of balancing the pH. Because if your corals aren't at that point where they're absorbing it, right, or taking the nutrient of it, then you're going to have a problem. But if you are monitoring it, I have a guy who every morning wakes up and monitors his phosphates, alkalinity, and pH.
Is his name Paul Hughes? You know what I'm like with monitoring. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Favourite reefing tool? That means hardware. What's your favourite? What would you not? So you're on a desert island. You've got a reef tank. Not that you would have, but if you did, yeah. And what piece of equipment could you not do without? You absolutely, fundamentally must have this bit of equipment.
Flow pump.
Yeah, I agree.
Flow pump all day.
Circulation is king, isn't it?
It is.
A lot of people always think it's lighting.
No,
but in actual
you
fact,
can shut the lighting for a week and your corals will be fine.
Yes, it.
But you shut your flow for an hour and see what happens.
Absolutely. I think that's the number one question. Right, and this is a real odd question.
Okay.
Favourite ice cream?
Vanilla. Well, Haagen-Dazs.
That's a brand.
Yeah, that's a brand. Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream.
Okay. I don't know why that came up, but I just thought it's random. I thought I'd try and put you off.
All right, so anyone that invites me over to your house, you know that I want vanilla.
Okay. Right, more importantly then, so obviously we've had a lifetime, even myself and you, we've both had a lifetime in the industry. How do you see the hobby in the future? I mean, have you got an optimistic look on this, or some of the discussions me and you were talking about with the state of the reefs the other day with Jamie? 90% of the world's reefs are under threat. 6 years, some of those they won't be there. I mean, I've always mentioned about the evolution. Evolution's always taught us that things change in nature anyway. We're likely to see reefs, I believe, in the Mediterranean more so. But where do you? So that I've got a sort of balanced view. I'm sort of optimistic about the fact that we're spawning corals and we're doing this and we're doing that. But what's your opinion on the hobby going forward?
I'm more optimistic than most, and it's because I may not dive as frequent and as often as some other people, but I've been to reefs that have been mind-blowing. And I one time had Charlie Veron in my house.
Yeah, if people don't know, let me stop you there, Tony, just for a minute. Charlie Veron, right, he was fundamental in putting together the first stone.
The Bible.
The Bibles. There's 3 books of all the skeletons.
Well, he started with the Indo-Pacific.
Yeah, it's Australian
Indo-Pacific book.
Yeah.
And then he did the 3 volumes.
He actually met an old member of staff of mine years ago in Costa Rica when they were doing a marine biology course and whatever. He was over there. I had a member of staff. He was blown away.
Yeah, he was at my house having dinner with us.
Yeah.
Julian brought him over, and
he's such a special guy, isn't he?
He is. He's interesting. However, not to knock down scientists, because I never do. Their work is vitally important to everything that they do. However, when I said to him, I was at Tubataha, and he said, you must have been devastated. I looked at him and I said...
Tubataha, that's in the Philippines,
Yes, that's in the middle of the Sulu Sea.
Which is supposed to be, I thought, one of the most diverse coral regions on the planet. 72 species
yes, the Indo-Pacific region is the Coral Triangle.
Yeah.
And that is the most diverse for reef fish, and it's most diverse for corals as well. The Great Barrier Reef has a certain number of species of corals, while it's very large. The Indo-Philippine region has a higher diversity than Australia. But I said to him, I went there, and he goes, I feel bad for you. You must have been devastated. And I said, well, why would I be devastated? And he says, that reef is not doing good. I said, no, you're absolutely wrong. And then I showed him pictures that I took in Tubataha, and he says to me, that's not Tubataha. And I said, you can't tell me it's not Tubataha. It's manned. There's a police station in the middle of Tubataha. And if you come anywhere near there, the Navy and the Coast Guard are right on your boat.
Is that because it's within the sort of South?
It's a protected area.
South China.
No, because it's in the middle. The Philippines comes like this, and then Palawan is here, and it's in the middle here. So it's embraced by the Philippines.
Yeah.
However, the Chinese do try to come into that area and rape and pillage.
I've heard that,
So I showed him the pictures, and he was like, that's surprising. And it's like, no, it's not surprising. Man has made a decision to take care of that area, and the area is prosperous. You're talking about hectares and hectares of acropora as far as the eye can see. You're looking, and you can't see where the acroporas end, where the sand begins. So, and the diversity of coral was there, the diversity of fish were there, but it's protected. And then there's Apple Reef. And Apple Reef is another location where at one point spearfishing was allowed, and aquarium trade, collecting of fish were allowed. Now that's protected, and it's become, and this is why I say, I think more positively than others because I've seen it with my own eyes. Apple Reef was on the verge of destruction. Apple Reef is now protected, and it's actually become the nursery hub to adjacent reefs. And the fishing has actually improved.
Well, that's
in
how
those
to
reefs.
do it, isn't it? It's a bit like forestry as well. It says that you should always have, if you have got fishing grounds, whether that's for ornamental reasons for the aquarium trade or whether it's for the food fishing industry, it's vitally important that you always have no-take zones, because the no-take zones are what feed the areas where you can, and then there's a sustainable approach. So you mentioned about the Philippines, so I know that we'll give a big shout out to Barnett at RVS because I know he's a good friend of yours, and you've been there several.
More than just a good friend.
Yeah, you've been there several times, haven't you?
Oh my God! I've been to the Philippines, visiting him. I think it was the 15th or 16th time that I've been to the Philippines.
Wow, yeah.
And I went and I visited him.
Is Barnett quite positive, do you think, about the fish collection? Because we've just had
Yes, he is, and here's why. Because his motto of collecting fish is to take the community, educate them, give them the tools that they need. Don't just educate them and throw them off into the wild.
Yeah, he net trains people. Just in case we didn't make that clear, we're talking about RVS Fish World, the Philippines, where some of the most amazing species have been discovered over the years. Lots of hybrid wrasse species, lots of beautiful tangs he finds, and different species and angels.
Yes.
And the seas are very healthy, I believe, fishing wise in his region.
Right. So here's the thing. If you teach the community to take care of the location, so then that way you have a source of income, they take care of it. If you say, no, you can't collect fish anymore, are they going to take care of it? There's no reason.
Yeah. Basically, I think I've always said this, is that you need to give unfortunately, you need to give a value to the coral reef, and of course for an average fisherman over there, if they was just catching fish for the table, they'd get like pennies.
Right,
but when
they would destroy the location.
Yeah, but a little wrasse like this that me and Tony so much is like $200-300, and the money transfers all the way down the line, and generally people in those regions are actually getting a higher wage than they would do if they were just
exactly. On one of my on my YouTube channel, I have an interview with Barnett, and he goes over the specifics where this family is making only $50 a month, and now they're making $300 a week.
So their whole life's improved.
Their life, yes. What he's providing with improvement is by far the best thing that can happen.
Yeah,
right? So these individuals, whether it's Palawan, whether it's Fiji, the Philippines, Indonesia, if we do the right thing in teaching these people that we are here to help you help yourselves, we'll go a whole different direction. But because they
recognise that without the reef, they've got no fish.
Yeah.
But as soon as they take the ornamental fisheries away, and all they're left with is the food fish industry, that's when we hear about more tales about dynamite fishing and these other problems.
That's when the big fish will come to the surface, and now they just fished easily.
But of course, even a big fish like this, say for the table, they're still not going to get as much of that as they would do for a tiny little wrasse. So
they make more money.
Yeah. Anyway, Tony, it's been absolutely fantastic having you over again.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously, it's the second time you've been over to us as well, personally. But
before we leave,
yeah,
there was another thing that I wanted to discuss.
Right.
With the future of the industry.
Yeah, go on.
As much negative as we hear, there's also positives.
Yeah.
Right. There's a recent paper that was written on the expansion of the Great Barrier Reef. Some people say it's dying, and meanwhile, Australia itself put a paper out saying that the Great Barrier Reef has actually grown and expanded.
Well, that's evolution, isn't it? I mean, sometimes we have to be careful because as much as what we see sometimes in the media, it's often played up, isn't it?
And that's my point. We can't take everything that we hear in the media and everything that we hear from science, because remember, for every there is no carbon, there is carbon, right? That it happens all day long. These people are being paid by the oil companies. These people are being paid from conservationists. So if I'm not the type of guy to be paid and told that this is a great product and say it is, and deep inside I know it's not. I would never do it. But people that need money and want money will say anything for money, and we have to be very careful in our industry.
Yeah.
I see our future great.
Okay.
I don't see negatives as long as
we do the right
thing. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, Tony, thank you so much for coming. I'm really pleased you're here again.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again in 2025.
Paul.
Yeah.
You're doing an excellent job.
Thank you very much.
And I honestly think that the concept that you created will be duplicated by others, because what you did was totally out the box.
Yeah.
And I admire you for that, because ever since I've met you, you've been a funny guy.
Yeah.
But you also have been a guy who always constantly thinking outside the box.
Thank you so much.
Keep that up.
I will do.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Tony Vargas. Thank you.